When a tomato has already made it from seed to a healthy transplant, a lot of gardeners feel like the hardest part is over. But this is exactly the point where many of them start losing yield. The plant is in the ground, it gets watered, the weather seems fine, and still it slows down, weakens, or flowers badly. In most cases, the problem is not the variety, but a few common mistakes people make right after transplanting. In this video, we'll break down 10 of those mistakes and what you actually need to do to keep your tomato plants strong and producing longer. The goal is not just to keep the plant alive, but to get fast establishment, steady growth, better fruit set, and a longer harvest window. Mistake number 1 is planting into cold soil and expecting normal growth. When the root zone stays cold, tomatoes slow down immediately. Roots work weaker, nutrient uptake drops, and the plant loses early momentum. What to do instead? Plant only when the soil is truly warm, or pre-warm the bed and use row cover, plastic, or a tunnel if you want an earlier start. Warm air is not enough. Warm soil is what gets tomatoes moving. Mistake number 2 is skipping hardening off and moving the seedling from protection straight into open conditions. Indoors, the plant grows under softer light, calmer air, and smaller temperature swings, so direct exposure can shock it hard enough to stop growth for days. What to do instead? Harden seedlings off gradually for several days before transplanting, increasing light, wind, and outdoor time step by step. A strong transplant is not just green, it is adapted. If you like practical garden advice that actually improves yield, subscribe so you do not lose this channel. I focus on the part most people underestimate, the decisions after planting that quietly decide the whole harvest. Mistake number 3 is planting overgrown seedlings and expecting them to launch fast. A tall transplant often comes with circling roots, a stretched stem, and stress that started before it ever reached the garden bed. What to do instead? Transplant compact, sturdy seedlings when possible. And if a plant is already leggy, plant it deeper and reduce extra stress after transplant. Bigger is not always better. Tomatoes reward balance more than size. Mistake number 4 is focusing on the seedling and ignoring the bed. Tomatoes do not just need a planting hole. They need loose soil, good drainage, and enough organic matter to build a strong root system fast. What to do instead? Prepare the soil before planting by loosening it, improving structure, and adding finished compost or other stable organic material. A good transplant cannot compensate for a bad root zone. Mistake number 5 is planting tomatoes too shallow. Tomatoes can form roots along buried stem tissue, so shallow planting wastes one of the easiest advantages this crop gives you. What to do instead? Plant deeper, especially with leggy seedlings, and let part of the stem become part of the root system. A stronger underground base usually means a stronger plant above ground. Mistake number 6 is spacing for the transplant instead of spacing for the mature plant. Tomatoes planted too close lose airflow, stay wetter longer, and become harder to tie, inspect, and prune correctly. What to do instead? Give each plant enough room for its full canopy from the beginning, even if the bed looks too empty at first. Space early, and you will manage the crop better all season. Mistake number 7 is watering without a system. Tomatoes do best with deep, steady moisture in the root zone, but many gardeners create swings instead. Shallow watering, skipped intervals, then heavy soaking. What to do instead? Water deeply. Water the soil and not the leaves. Do it in the morning, and keep moisture more even from week to week. Tomatoes handle consistency better than rescue watering. Mistake number 8 is pushing nitrogen too hard, too early. Excess nitrogen builds dark green leaf mass quickly, but it can delay balance in flowering and fruiting and push the plant toward foliage instead of production. What to do instead? Let the plant establish roots first, then feed moderately and in a way that supports balanced development. A good tomato crop needs structure and fruit, not just impressive leaves. Mistake number 9 is waiting too long to install support. Once a tomato starts leaning, spreading, or tangling into nearby plants, every stake, tie, or cage becomes harder and riskier to install. What to do instead? Set the support system early, while the plant is still easy to guide and before the canopy starts choosing its own structure. Early support prevents correction work later. Mistake number 10 is growing tomatoes for survival instead of for duration. A plant that is never opened up, never trained, and never kept balanced wastes energy on extra foliage, poor airflow, and tangled growth instead of extending production. What to do instead? Manage the canopy, tie regularly, reduce unnecessary crowding, and keep water and feeding stable enough for the plant to stay productive longer. Long harvests are usually built, not lucked into. Most weak tomato harvests do not come from one dramatic failure. They come from several small decisions made too casually after planting. Fix those decisions early, and tomato growing becomes far more predictable and far more productive.